I thought coming home would be a warm, familiar moment, a chance to rediscover myself after months away. But when I pushed open the door, it wasn't my mom's laughter or the comforting smell of freshly baked cookies that greeted me. Instead, it was an eerie silence and a pair of unfamiliar high heels tossed carelessly by the entrance. Something was off, and when I opened the door to my room, I realized this story was about to change everything. I had planned it all out carefully, one more week after finishing finals, saying goodbye to my roommates, and working my last shift at the dusty old bookstore near campus. I'd head home, but life never sticks to the script. A professor canceled a test out of the blue. Someone took my shift at work. And just like that, I had 5 empty days and a train ticket burning a hole in my pocket, urging me to head home early. I decided to surprise Mom. She loves surprises, or at least I remember her loving them. The train brought me back to my small hometown, where the streets still held the echoes of my childhood bike rides. Stepping off the platform, the summer air wrapped around me, warm and heavy with the scent of freshly cut grass. I dragged my suitcase along, heading toward the house I'd left nearly a year ago. That house, with its creaky wooden porch, always smelled of pine and a hint of vanilla from the candles Mom loved to burn. I smiled, imagining her squealing in surprise, pulling me into a hug like she did when I was a kid. But when I reached the front door, something felt wrong. The house was quiet, too quiet. No clatter of pots and pans from the kitchen, no hum of the TV in the living room. Just the late afternoon sun, golden and soft, filtering through the porch and onto the weathered, wooden door. I fumbled for my keys. The lock clicked softly as it always did. I stepped inside. The air was so still I could hear my own breathing. I set my bag down, the thud echoing faintly, as if it dared to disturb the silence. I glanced around. The living room was tidy, but something was off. The throw pillows on the couch were slightly askew, like someone had sat there and left in a hurry. A glass sat on the coffee table, a few drops of water glistening inside. I frowned. Mom never left dishes out like that. Then my eyes landed on the shoes by the door. High heels, black sleek pointed toe, practically brand new. Not Mom's, she only wore practical flats, sturdy enough for her long days at the office. These heels were different, elegant, like they belonged to another world. My pulse quickened. Someone was here. "Mom," I called, my voice bouncing off the empty hallway. No answer. I stepped through the hall, the wooden floor creaking under my feet. The kitchen was empty, no sign of dinner being prepped, no faint smell of the coffee Mom always brewed in the afternoon. I checked the living room again. Still no one. But that feeling like someone was nearby clung to me like a shadow. I climbed the stairs, each step deliberate. The old wooden staircase groaned, a familiar sound that used to feel like home. Today, it sent a chill down my spine. Halfway up, I froze. A faint noise, barely audible, came from the end of the hall. A rustle, like someone moving. It came from my room. My heart pounded. Was Mom cleaning it for me? But if so, why those heels? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Maybe it was just the wind, or the curtains brushing against the window. I kept going, one step at a time, until I stood outside my bedroom door. It was ajar, a sliver of light spilling out. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. I didn't know what I was bracing for, but this didn't feel like coming home. It felt like stepping into a secret that wasn't mine. I pushed the door open, slowly, silently, and then I froze. On my bed, where I'd slept thousands of nights, was a woman. She lay there, legs crossed at the ankles, a paperback book in her hands. Her long hair spilled over her shoulders, bare feet peeking out from under a thin silk robe. She was wearing my old high school football t-shirt, faded but clinging to her frame like it belonged. She looked up, her expression calm, as if her presence in my room was the most natural thing in the world. A faint smile curved her lips. "Ethan," she said, her voice low and warm, like she'd been expecting me. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my brain scrambling to process what was happening. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from something else, something I couldn't name. It took a moment to register who she was. Sarah. Sarah, my mom's best friend from college. The woman who used to show up at family barbecues, always radiant, always dressed impeccably, always hugging me like I was the most important person in the room. But that was the Sarah from 2 years ago, before she moved away, before her divorce, before she started over. Now here she was, in my room, on my butt, like she belonged here. "Sarah," I managed, my voice hoarse. She sat up slowly, setting the book aside. The silk robe slipped slightly, revealing a glimpse of her shoulder. She smiled, unfazed. "Your mom said you'd be back next week." I blinked, searching for words. "She didn't tell me you were here." She laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "Guess we're both surprised." Then, I stood there, unsure what to do or say. Sarah, with her effortless confidence, her faint perfume, her eyes that seemed to see right through me. This wasn't how I'd pictured coming home. But, looking at her, I knew this story was only beginning. Sarah stood, the silk robe gliding with her as she moved. She grabbed her book and phone charger, heading toward the hallway. The sunlight from the window caught her hair, making it shimmer. "You okay, Ethan?" she asked, her voice soft, like she genuinely cared. I nodded, but my mind was spinning. Just didn't expect anyone here. She smiled, a smile both warm and elusive. Guess I should move to the guest room. She paused at the doorway, glancing back. You've really grown up, Ethan, a lot. Her words hung in the air, like an unspoken question. Then she disappeared down the hall, her footsteps fading into the house's silence. I stood there, my heart racing. The room still held her scent, a mix of vanilla and something expensive, like high-end perfume. My old t-shirt, now marked by her presence, made it impossible to think of anything else. Sarah, the woman who'd been part of my childhood memories, always at weekend cookouts, always laughing with Mom. But now, she was different. Not the Aunt Sarah of my youth, but a woman with deep eyes and gestures that left me unsettled. I tried to sort through my thoughts. Sarah had moved away after her divorce 2 years ago. Mom said she wanted a fresh start, a new life somewhere else. So why was she here, in my house, in my room, wearing my shirt? I shook my head, trying to push away the image of her on my bed, but it clung to me like a dream I couldn't shake. Where's Mom? I asked, stepping into the kitchen, where Sarah was pouring water from a pitcher. She wore a different oversized t-shirt, not mine, and black leggings. Her hair was tied up, a few strands loose at the nape of her neck. Your mom's at the beach for a few days with some friends, Sarah said, her tone casual, like this was no big deal. She said I could stay here. My place is being noisy. I needed somewhere quiet. I nodded, but questions swirled in my head. Mom hadn't mentioned Sarah, not a text, not a call. I opened the fridge, grabbing a water bottle just to have something to do. You're staying long, Sarah shrugged, setting her glass on the counter. A few days, maybe. Depends on how the renovations go. She looked at me, her gaze lingering a beat too long. You don't mind, do you? Nah, I said quickly, but my voice wavered. She smiled like she knew I wasn't being entirely honest. That evening I offered to cook. Something simple, spaghetti with whatever veggies were left in the fridge, and some marinara sauce. Sarah moved around the kitchen, pouring 2 glasses of red wine, grabbing plates from the cabinet like she knew the place by heart. Your mom still keeps the dishes here, she said, chuckling. Some things never change. I stirred the pasta, trying not to stare at her too long, but it was hard not to notice. The way she moved, graceful yet confident. The way she held her wine glass, fingers brushing the rim. The way she looked at me, like she was searching for something. Since when do you cook? She asked, leaning against the counter, chin resting on her hand. Since college, I said. I had to figure it out in the dorms. She nodded, her eyes glinting. You were always a smart kid. Used to ask me all kinds of questions. Remember when you asked why the sky's blue? I laughed, caught off guard by the memory. Did I really? Yup, you were maybe 6, sitting on the porch steps, pointing at the sky. I had to make up an answer so I wouldn't disappoint you. I smiled, but the warmth faded into unease. The Sarah from back then was an adult, a friend of Mom's in the window. I wasn't sure casting a golden glow across her hair. She told stories about Mom, about their wild college days, late-night parties, and silly promises. But I couldn't focus. I kept watching her, looking for a sign that she felt the strangeness too, that sitting here eating dinner with me wasn't normal. But she just twirled her pasta, smiling, like everything was perfectly fine. You look tired, she said after a while, sipping her wine. How's college? Busy, I replied. Lots of assignments, late nights, but it's good. She nodded, tilting her head. You used to have this wild, curious look in your eyes. Now you're quieter. Life slows you down, I said, unsure if I was answering or just filling the silence. Or it teaches you where to look, she said, her voice softer. Her words made me glance up, but she was already looking out the window. I wanted to ask what she meant, but something in her expression kept me quiet. After dinner, I washed the dishes. Sarah stood beside me, drying plates, close enough that I could feel the warmth from her. Once our hands brushed as she handed me a plate, I pulled back quicker than I meant to. She didn't react, just kept drying, like nothing happened. Bathroom, still the same? She asked when we were done. Yup, I said. Good. You should get some sleep. You look like you need it. She paused at the doorway, turning back. I didn't mean to startle you this afternoon. I really thought I was alone. It's fine, I said, but my voice wasn't steady. She smiled, soft, but with something else in her eyes, not quite an apology. Knock, next time. Okay, she teased, my face flushed. She laughed, then headed upstairs. I tried to sleep that night, but Sarah's image kept resurfacing. The way she said my name, the way she moved, like she belonged here. The way she looked at me, like she saw something in me I hadn't seen myself. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sarah's presence lingered in my mind, the way she leaned against the counter, her half-teasing smile as she left the kitchen. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a fleeting confusion. She was Mom's best friend, the woman who'd held me as a kid, who'd told jokes at family parties. But those memories felt distant, replaced by her gaze, her voice, and a feeling I couldn't name. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds, casting golden streaks across the hardwood floor. I heard faint clinking from the kitchen. Sarah was up. I pulled on a shirt and headed downstairs, trying to act normal. She was at the table, legs crossed, reading the local paper through thin-framed glasses. A steaming coffee mug sat in front of her. She wore leggings and an oversized t-shirt, her hair pulled into a messy bun, a few strands loose on her forehead. She looked up and smiled. "Morning, coffee's fresh." "Thanks," I said, pouring a cup and sitting across from her. The air buzzed with summer sounds. Birds chirping outside, cars passing in the distance, a lawnmower humming next door. It should have felt peaceful, but a current ran through me, like something was about to break. Sarah folded the paper, pushing her glasses onto her head. "Got plans today?" "Not yet," I said, sipping my coffee. It was rich, but I barely tasted it. "You've probably hit the grocery store," she said, tilting her head. "Wanna come? We're out of milk." I nodded quicker than I meant to. "Sure," she smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Cool, go get ready. I'll wait." At the store, things felt almost normal. We pushed the cart through the aisles, picking out fruit, debating which pasta sauce was better. Sarah paused at the wine section, holding up a bottle with a garish peacock label. "This one's awful," she said, smirking. I laughed, and for a moment, we were just two people hanging out, no complications. But then her shoulder brushed mine at the produce section. It wasn't intentional, but she didn't pull away, and neither did I back home. We unpacked the groceries. Sarah opened a bottle of wine, pouring 2 glasses. "Just one," she said, but her tone carried a playful challenge. I took the glass, trying not to notice how close she stood, how her fingers tapped rhythmically on the counter. That evening she suggested a movie, something light, she said, picking a rom-com on the TV. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, the space between us like an invisible line, but that line kept shrinking. 10 minutes in, she pulled a blanket over her legs. 15 minutes, she curled up, leaning against a cushion. 20 minutes, she shifted, her hand resting on the couch, closer to me. The movie faded into the background. I couldn't focus on the screen, only on her presence, the warmth radiating from her, the rhythm of her breathing. When the credits rolled, the room fell silent. The TV clicked off, and the quiet felt heavy, carrying the weight of everything unsaid. I turned to say something, anything, to break the tension, but she was already looking at me, her eyes soft, unwavering. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice like an invitation. Then she leaned in, slowly, deliberately. Her lips brushed mine, light, like a question, and I answered, not with words, but by kissing her back. The kiss wasn't wild or desperate. It was gentle, intentional, like we both knew it shouldn't happen but couldn't stop it. Her hand touched my neck, her thumb grazing my jaw. I forgot everything, the house, my mom, the rules we were breaking. It was only her breath, warm, mingling with mine. When we pulled apart, she didn't move away immediately. Her forehead rested against mine, eyes half closed. "This can't mean anything," she whispered. "I know," I said, my voice shaking, "but it doesn't feel that way." She smiled, a sad, fleeting smile. "Sometimes, it's just a moment." But I knew, and maybe she did too, that it wasn't just a moment. It was something we'd been heading toward since I opened my bedroom door and saw her there. She stood, pulling the blanket off her legs, giving me one last look. "I need to sleep," she said. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She paused at the doorway. "Good night, Ethan. Good night, Sarah." She went upstairs, leaving me in the dark. The kiss lingered on my lips, a question without an answer. I sat there, unsure what tomorrow would bring, but certain there was no going back. I sat in the darkened living room, streetlight filtering through the blinds, casting faint shadows on the floor. Sarah's kiss stayed with me, an indelible mark. I wanted to get up, to do something to break the silence, but my body felt anchored to the couch. I heard her soft footsteps upstairs, then the click of a door. The house was quiet again, but my mind was screaming. I wondered what had just happened. Sarah was my mom's best friend, the woman who'd told me bedtime stories, who'd laughed at my birthday parties. But now she was someone else, a woman whose gaze made my heart skip, whose words cut through boundaries I thought were untouchable. I knew it was wrong, but it also felt right in a way I couldn't explain. The next morning, the sky was overcast, a dull light seeping through the blinds, like it didn't want to wake the house. I lay in bed, listening to the soft patter of rain outside. Faint clinking came from the kitchen, pulling me from my thoughts. Sarah was up. I got dressed, slowly, trying to delay facing her when I walked downstairs. She stood at the counter, her back to me, hair tied in a loose bun. She wore a soft blue sweater, the kind that looked like it had seen a lifetime of stories. To coffee, mug steamed on the counter. "Morning," she said without turning. "Morning," I replied, my voice rough. She slid a mug toward me. "Figured you'd need this." I took it, the warmth spreading through my hands, but the air between us was cold, like the kiss had built an invisible wall. She sipped her coffee, staring out the window at the rain. "I'm leaving tomorrow morning," she said, so softly I almost missed it. Tomorrow, I echoed, my chest tightening. "Your mom's coming back early. She wants to hit the farmer's market." She turned, her expression calm but distant. "Time flies, huh?" I nodded, at a loss for words. We ate breakfast in silence, the only sounds the clink of spoons against cereal bowls and the rain outside. Every move she made, the way she held her spoon, the way she brushed hair from her forehead made me want to say something, but the words wouldn't come. That afternoon, I found her in the living room, sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Classical music played softly from a speaker, like it was trying to soothe the tension. She looked up as I walked in. "I was thinking," she said, setting her phone down, "about last night." I froze, my heart racing. "About what?" She smiled, but it was tinged with regret. "I don't regret it, but I think we both got caught up in something. Something powerful, but not exactly right." "It didn't feel wrong," I said, my voice low but firm. She nodded, like she understood. "That's what scares me." Silence settled over us. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "This house always felt like a memory to me. Safe, warm, untouched by the mistakes I've made out there. You being here, all grown up, steady, kind, it reminded me of a version of myself I lost." I didn't know how to respond. She continued, her voice softer. "You deserve someone who isn't chasing." But my voice lacked conviction. She looked at me, her eyes full of something I couldn't name. "Isn't it?" That night, the rain grew heavier, drumming steadily against the windows. I stayed in my room, lights off, the only glow from the street outside. I heard footsteps, then 3 soft knocks. I opened the door. Sarah stood there, in a tank top and loose pajama pants, hair down, eyes tired but focused. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of my bed, hands clasped, staring at the floor. "I didn't mean to do this," she said, "but I couldn't sleep, and I didn't want our story to end with that conversation this morning." "It matters," I whispered, "more than I thought." She took my hand, her fingers warm and steady. We lay down slowly, no rush, no promises, no plans, just each other's presence. A quiet night, and we both knew it would be the last. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting golden streaks on the walls. I woke first, feeling her steady breathing beside me. Her head rested on my shoulder, her hand lightly on my chest. For a moment I closed my eyes, pretending this was a beginning, not an end. She stirred a few minutes later, blinking slowly. She didn't pull away immediately. "Hey," she whispered. "Hey." We lay there, neither wanting to break the moment. Then she sat up, brushing her hair back. "I need to pack." "Yeah," I said, my voice heavy. She looked at me, her eyes soft. "Thanks for letting me be human." Her words hit me like a punch. She left the room without another word. Downstairs, things fell back into a normal rhythm. Her suitcase sat by the door. Her keys were in the ceramic dish on the counter. Coffee was brewed, but only 1 mug. When her Uber arrived, she called my name from the hallway, "Ethan." I walked out. She stood at the door, hand on her suitcase, eyes locked on mine. "Your mom can't know." "I know." She hesitated. "This shouldn't have happened, but I don't regret it." "Neither do I," she smiled, a mix of pain and gratitude. "I hope one day when you look back, you feel stronger, not confused." I didn't answer, because I didn't know what I'd feel. She leaned in, kissing my cheek softly, not romantic, not intimate, but something in between. Then she turned, pulling her suitcase behind her. I stood in the hallway long after the car drove away. The house was quiet again, but it was a different kind of silence. I went upstairs, finding a folded scarf on the edge of my bed. Hers may be intentional, maybe not. I picked it up, catching the faint scent of vanilla and flowers, a memory of her already starting to fade. I stood there, in the empty hallway, holding the scarf. The faint vanilla scent lingered, a reminder of the past few days, a story that shouldn't have happened but changed me forever. Life sometimes leads us down unexpected paths, where the line between right and wrong blurs, where a single moment can redefine who you are. Sarah was gone, but what she left behind, not just the scarf, but the tangled emotions inside me, echo on this story. Like all the stories on Hidden Tales, isn't just a tale, it's an invitation to look within. Have you ever faced a moment that made you question everything? A choice, a glance, a whisper that shifted your world? Share your story with us in the comments. Every experience, every secret, deserves to be told. Don't forget to hit like if this moved you, and subscribe to Hidden Tales for more stories that tug at the heart. Click the bell to join us in uncovering the mysteries of the heart and life. What's your story? Tell us right now.